Welcome to Determined to Succeed. I'm your host, Dawn Malarney, also known as the Unique Connector. So, if you haven't heard of this name before we get into it, he's been on the show before already. So be sure to check out an earlier episode with Frank. But I'm so excited to have Frank back. I thought it would be timely to have Frank back because the holidays are coming. And for me, I assumed it was kind of a heightened time for maybe suicidal rates. But the more I researched about it, it actually isn't. So this is where either no matter what, having Frank on the show I think is valuable. But I kind of wanted to have Frank on the show because holidays is coming up and time with your family, your loved ones, but also to kind of think a little differently when it comes to the holidays. So thank you, Frank, for joining me on the show today.
My pleasure. And as we're recording this, we're between Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. So,
Yeah.
and a lot of people assume that suicide rates would be higher during the holidays. I believe, and I'm mistaken, suicide rates are highest late spring, early summer. I'm not sure why that is. I don't know if with the spring and early summer and things coming back to life that people take stock and think, oh, another year, and here I am. Although you'd think that would happen at New Year's.
Yeah.
It rolled over for the next year. So hard to say. However, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that 30 some percent, the
38.
holidays, what's it? The holidays cause an increase in stress and perhaps depression in 30% of the population,
Hmm.
30 plus percent. Number of reasons, actually. The stress of the holidays. I know there are people, I've got friends who just go gaga over the holidays. I mean, they start decorating the moment Halloween is over.
Yeah.
Uh, they love the holidays. Then again, there are people who, let's say you are not particularly financially successful, and there are a lot of financial stresses. If you have children, they're going to be expecting presents. Your relatives, probably they're going to send you something, so you've got to send them something. My first wife,
Mhm.
bless her heart, wonderful woman, but we had to send Uncle John something because Uncle John was going to send us something. And finally, I said, couldn't we all just get off this merry-go-round and agree we're not going to send anything to anybody? Maybe make a donation in our name to a charitable cause, a pet rescue or something, rather than knickknacks, bric-a-brac. I do have a bit of a funny story about the holidays. I've done a number of holiday cruises, Christmas and New Year's, over Christmas and New Year's. And back in the day when I started about 13 years ago, those were the worst cruises to work.
Oh.
Well, because the people who were on that boat were generally people whose families couldn't stand them. So
Mm.
they got together and said, look, instead of giving grandma and grandpa knickknacks and bric-a-brac, what do you say we pool our money and keep their drunken behinds away from the Christmas dinner table? Let's put them on a cruise. So picture this, Dawn. I'm on a boat with 2,500 people nobody likes.
Yeah.
My wife happened to come with me. That's the one cruise that she came with me on another cruise earlier, but this is like an official Holland America, I think. Nice, really nice. And we did it last minute. They needed a comic, said, bring your wife, we'll pay. So we went. My wife sat through 2 shows, Dawn, and I got nothing. Crickets. 2 45-minute shows. My wife said it was like watching someone you love get beat up. There's nothing you can do about it. I'm in the elevator, still wearing my performing outfit, my suit. And there's an 80-year-old man ish in the elevator. So I'm doing my PR thing. Hey, man, how was your day? It was great, except for the show. It was the worst I've ever seen.
Oh.
I'm thinking he's 80 something. How many shows has he seen? So I change clothes. I go up to the midnight buffet and to drown my sorrows in ice cream. And a woman standing in line behind me goes, hey, you're the comedian. I almost didn't recognize you. And I said, that's the nicest thing anybody said to me all evening. Yeah. So fortunately, Dawn, in the intervening years, the Christmas and holiday cruises have become more family oriented. People, rather than having a family reunion at someone's place, someone's house, someone's city, they all go on the cruise. Everybody's got their own cabin. You can get off the ship, stay on the ship. There's all kinds of activities. There are, if you have children, they have a youth. There are people who corral the youth. I mean, they band them like wolves, so they know where they are on the ship. And so it's a fun time. It's got a lot funner the last couple of years. I'm telling you, that first years were just. Here's how bad it was. Holland America, every week, every department, culinary, housekeeping, entertainment, they get a rating from the passengers. During those 2 weeks, Christmas through New Year's, Holland America just threw out the numbers. They just said, no, we're not going to look because it was such an anomaly. I mean, it was nothing like any other week of the year. So they just tossed them out. So, again, there's stress at the holidays. I think some of the stress for people with mental challenges, Dawn, is it's supposed to be a happy time. Happy, happy,
Yeah.
happy. And some folks, it's difficult to be happy, on a daily basis, much less a forced happiness, for the days between Thanksgiving and New Year's. So there's that. Fatigue, I mean, if you are traveling to see family or traveling to see friends, it's like people come back from vacation and say, I need a vacation for my vacation. Because airports nowadays, it was bad before 9/11. It's horrible now. There's a fatigue from flying and putting up with the delays and so forth. I think one of the big ones is unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
You watch Christmas movies, A Wonderful Life,
Yeah.
an angel just got its wings. Everybody's happy. So they save these savings alone. So you're expected to be happy during the holidays. There's a bit of over commercialization of the holidays. I still remember from my childhood the image of Santa Claus holding a Coca-Cola. That's
Yeah.
I think that was the first advertisement that featured the big round jolly red man with a big white beard. I think Coca-Cola was the one that created that, and of course that's maintained through the years. And then there's financial stress. Are you going to be able to afford a gift for your significant other? Are you going to be able to afford gifts for your children, which I think would be extremely. And are you going to overextend yourself? Credit cards to do those things, which means come January, those bills come due. So and then there's the family. I think I grew up in a very happy family. My wife did not. When my wife met my family, Southern family, my Aunt Dot, who'd never seen my wife before in life, we went to the family reunion. My Aunt Dot came tottering down the driveway, said to my wife, Wendy, give me some sugar. That was the warm embrace and at the end of the family reunion, my wife said to me, I just don't get this whole happy family thing. So there are people for whom there is no happy family thing, but there's a pressure. Aren't you going to go home and see your folks? Aren't you going to? I think we need to empower people to say, if it's going to hurt their mental stability, they need to be able to politely decline.
Yeah.
And if you think it's going to hurt your mental stability, if you're dreading it, you shouldn't have to go. You have my permission to say, look, I think I'll make it next year. But there's a lot of pressure that to get together as a family, and it's become a bit of a thing, Dawn, with the politics the way they are, and severely divided. People talk about that. What are you going to do with your crazy uncle who brings up politics at the Christmas dinner table? How are you going to handle that? When I was a kid, nobody talked politics it was past the sweet potato casserole.
Yeah.
That's so. But again, I had a relatively happy upbringing. But yeah, I think and then the flip side of the forced to go is the inability to go. You'd like to be there, you really would, but you either financially or physically or mentally you can't join them for Christmas. And I think the military is probably the best worst case of that, where you're stationed overseas and you just can't get on a plane and go home and have dinner with the folks, because that's called AWOL, absent without leave. I mean, you could, but again, the price is going to be paid in January when you get back. So either the not wanting to because your family is your family, or really want to but can't for financial for whatever reason. So a lot of pressure around the holidays.
Yeah, and that's why I guess I kind of felt silly, but I just assumed that was when the higher rates of suicide was, just because of the societal expectations and all these things that you need to do in order to, kind of please the family or please what society wants you to do and the expectations. And so I think some people, that can be very overwhelming or very stressful. And so it makes sense that of course it heightens the mental, uh, anxiety and stress and depression and all those things and substance abuse during this time. And I think, COVID maybe kind of gave a different opportunity for people to reflect a little differently.
Hmm?
Maybe I even know from my own family of, traditions are important, but sometimes you have to create your own traditions and you have to try new things. And, I'm more about the quality time together than the quick, okay, I made it there on Christmas for, a couple of hours. I'd rather spend a good long weekend together instead of this rushing here, there, everywhere to make sure we're pleasing everybody. But that's just my own personal view on it. So that's why I thought it'd be kind of interesting to just have you on, Frank, to just help give a new perspective and to help people think differently when it comes to the holidays.
Yes, and I got in the habit of when my wife and I were on the road, I was doing stand up. She came along for the ride for those 7 years. I
Yeah.
got in the habit we would drop in to see people as we're traveling back and forth across the country. So it wasn't a holiday; it was a Wednesday. We were just passing through, but made a point of stopping in. And if we needed a place for the night, then we'd spend the night. I pretty much saw everybody in my family between the reunions, uh,
Mm,
and I got in the habit of um, calling people when it wasn't a holiday or a birthday, a gift every now and then when it wasn't a holiday or just a random out of the blue. My niece and nephew were young when I started out stand up. Then I got into the corporate thing, and every corporate event pretty much has an exhibit hall, and they have vendor booths, and they have all these tchotchkes,
yeah.
pins and pads, and sticky notes. And so I would go around with a bag and take two of everything,
Okay.
everything, put it in a priority, flat rate box. Uh, and at odd times during the year, this would arrive, and the family would sit around. My nephew and niece and my brother-in-law, my sister. They'd take the box, turn it over, and shake it like this, and then go digging through the stuff. And I always tried to put something, a real gift, in amongst, or two or three in amongst the tchotchkes, so that it was like a Cracker Jack box. There really was a prize in there somewhere. But then again, at random times when it wasn't forced, it wasn't you like my lovely first wife, because he's going to give us something, we got to give him something. And Christmas cards, she was very neurotypical. I mean, normal as you can possibly be. But every year when it gets close to the middle of November, she would begin to freak out over getting the Christmas cards done.
Yeah.
I mean, stressed. Again, I said, look, why don't we just stop sending? But she was a junior leaguer, and it was that's the polite thing to do. And bless her heart, she's a wonderful woman, but just a little high strung in the holidays because of the Christmas cards and the gifts.
Yeah. Well, it's a great reminder too of that little acts of kindness or the little touches that can really go a long way, especially during these weird times where some people are still feeling isolated, are feeling lonely, they're trying to get back to the routine or trying to meet these expectations. It's those little things that can really help impact. It's just even inviting somebody to come meet up a different random day or sending them something in the mail. And I love your tchotchke story because I giggle because that's a great idea. And I think of some of these fun games that a lot of families have been trying to bring into the different family events. I just feel like right now my Instagram has been a lot of games lately. They're trying to think of fun things where it's not just about giving a gift or spending money. It's about just having fun and laughter and getting a moment to have a break and enjoy the people that are around you and to soak it in more each time you're with each other.
I think if I had kids, I would, when they got to be of an age, I would take us
Mhm.
all down to the Salvation Army or the Catholic Family Charities and serve dinner or lunch and let them see how the rest of the world lives. Give them donate our time to a good cause over the holidays. Nursing home. You know, a lot of people in nursing homes, their family never, ever comes to see them. So
Yeah.
drop by. I've got a friend who's got a service dog, a golden retriever, and he would take it to nursing homes. And the residents love the golden retriever. You know, just do something nice for somebody. Can I tell you a funny story about my niece and nephew?
Yeah, of
I
course.
would I would oftentimes fly into Raleigh once I got to doing corporate gigs and rent a car at the airport. And of course, I'd stop by and see my sister on the way to the hotel or whatever it was. And finally, after a couple of these trips, my nephew said, he's probably 8, to my sister, because it's always a brand new car, always a different model. He said, I think I figured it out. Uncle Frank is a car thief. You know, kid logic, new car,
Yep.
new model.
Mhm.
So, and I rented a convertible on purpose one time, and the kids piled in the back, strapped them in. I cranked up bad to the bone on the radio. And we drove around the, you know, just just that kind of, you know, it doesn't have to be a gift, could be just a gift of your time. And I believe with kids, by the way, Dawn, kids and older people. Hell, I'm 67, much older people. Um, you should do what they like to do. Ask the
Mm.
kid what they want to do. We had a friend of my wife's. She called her an aunt, but wasn't officially a blood relative. Church was a big deal for her, and
Mm.
she went to the Episcopal church here in town. And I was raised Episcopal, and so I would go with her on Sundays because that was a big part. And I even went to Wednesday, you know, Bible study a couple times because that was a big part of her life. That's what she enjoyed doing. Now I must tell you about the Episcopals. Oh my Lord, I would have to have a triple shot of espresso to make it through the sermon because I'm telling you, without fail, it's like breathing ether. It's you know, it just but well, my we were raised by my mom and a housekeeper who was a black minister in the United Church of Christ. And we would go once a month or so to her church. Far different from the Episcopals. I mean, they were singing and dancing. They had a guy looked like Bojangles pounding a piano, people flopping down the aisle, speaking in tongues. I mean, it was, you know, no way you're dozing off.
Mhm.
The Episcopals are like, about, you could say you're watched by the Episcopals, but it was what she liked to do. So I went with her. So, you know, that's a gift you can give somebody that's not going to cost a lot of money. If you, let's say you have nieces and nephews and you're
Yeah.
going to be in town with them, ask them, what do you like to do? Movies? Is it, you know, is it video games? Is it, and what, well, where would you like to go? What would you like to do? Rather than try to guess what would be good for the child. Although I must tell you, my friend Jan McGinnis, never married. Her sister has a couple of kids. And when the kids were young, she would send them one of two things, something like a drum set, or she would send them the accessory to a really expensive toy they didn't have.
Mm. Mhm, mhm.
Yeah. And when her sister would send her pictures of the kids, my friend would send her sister, who had the kids, a picture of herself sleeping in on Saturday morning. So it was an interesting, but she was involved in the kids, you know, she was their favorite aunt. She was the fun
Yeah.
aunt. So I always wanted to be the fun uncle. Matter of fact, my niece and nephew always wanted an Uncle Steve. So my sister said, do you mind if they call you Uncle Steve? Absolutely not. So for years, I was Uncle Steve because they wanted to. So, you know, little things you can do and do them year round. Um,
Yeah.
but on a serious note, yeah, if going to see your family and the pressure's on, because people are flying out of town to see their families, driving out of town to see their families, pressure's on for you to spend time with your family. But if it's going to do you harm, I believe it's possible for you to politely decline, if it's possible, politely decline.
Oh,
Not everybody had a happy family as mine.
right. Well, and two, I think, it's a time to reflect on and the greatness of what you do have. I think sometimes we overlook it with all the things going on in the world or all the responsibilities that we have. Sometimes it's just taking time to reflect and to, maybe you don't need to be there, but reflect on the goodness that they have in each person. And, I think it's time to know that people aren't alone. And that's kind of why I wanted to have you on here too, of just get different thoughts, but also to get people thinking about, their loved ones, to not get mad at them if they don't want to come, but also too for themselves if they need a moment. It's okay to say no. So, what are some other quick things, Frank, that you would really love for our listeners to know or to think of when it comes around suicide or, mental health?
Well, there's a new 3-digit number, 988, Suicide Prevention Lifeline and text line. And I've been told they would prefer that you don't wait until you're suicidal to call them. If you are struggling, if you feel yourself being drawn down, call them then. Be proactive. Don't wait till you're standing on the ledge. Would be. And one of my coaching clients, has a thing called the boundary castle.
Mm,
The metaphor is a castle. And
okay.
she says boundaries are often misunderstood. They're not a way to shove people out. They're a way to decide how far into the castle you're going to let them in. Are they courtyard friends? Are they dining hall friends? Or are they second floor where the family sleeps friends in the hot tub? So think of boundaries not as a way to shove people away, but set those boundaries for yourself. So and like I said, are they courtyard friends? Are they first floor friends with the dining room? Second floor friends where the bedroom is, or third floor where the hot tub is? So I would say work on setting boundaries as a way not to push people out, but to draw people in to the space that's most comfortable for you. And you can move people around.
Yeah.
You can
It's
throw
not
them out of the
permanent.
hot tub. Yeah, throw them out of the hot tub back into the courtyard.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's and again, it's a stressful time of the year. Don't feel like you have to be happy. There's the song, "Don't worry, be happy." I mean, trying to be happy constantly, consistently, is draining.
Yeah.
Oh, and you mentioned it. My wife and I, every morning, we do 3 things we're grateful for, and 3 things that made us happy the day before, and what 3 things we think are going to make us happy today.
That's
We lie
good.
there in bed in the dark, 3 things I'm grateful for, 3 things that made me happy yesterday, 3 things I think are going to make me happy today. Again, focusing on the things you have. When we file bankruptcy, the thing about bankruptcy is it teaches you what you need, not what you want.
Mm,
And we began that shortly thereafter doing the grateful game. 3 things every day had to be 3 different things. So you're focusing on the things that you have and that's something, again, people struggle with. If you've lost a family member this year, let's say you're a happy family and you've lost a family member and you go to Christmas dinner, there's an empty chair,
yeah.
adds to the stress. So it's because that's oftentimes the only time families get together is on the holidays. And if so and so is not there, I mean, there's that void, especially in the first year.
hmm Mm. And I think that's another reminder too of like the hidden, emotions that some of us may have. It's just a reminder, you don't know all the things that are going on and how everybody's feeling or how everybody's coping. And so just to, be mindful of that. But I appreciate you so much, Frank, for coming on the show again. And I hope the listeners, if you haven't listened to the first one, listen to the first episode with Frank. He's so fun. And I'm so thankful we met. And that you keep just spreading this awareness and you're making a ripple so much in the world right now. And I appreciate you very much, Frank, for being in my corner, but also, taking the time to really chat this out with me today.
We're going to have another one of those gatherings you drug me into with all those other people.
Yeah, I would say the podcast, I think for me, it's been, I'm all about connection. And so all the podcast guests, I get them together each month. Some people can come, some can't. So sometimes we're a group of 5 and sometimes we're a group of 20, but it's all about connecting and making sure people don't feel alone. So I'm glad you joined in on that last call because I know you brought a new energy in. So thank you,
And
Frank.
several of the people reached out to me afterwards. They perhaps were
Yeah.
thinking about speaking career or whatever, and I could give them some advice, and counsel on. I mean,
Good.
I, yeah, I didn't get any clients out of it, but that's not the point.
Right.
It's giving value, and I was happy to after we met on your podcast. Happy to help them out however I could.
Well, I appreciate that. See, look how
Yeah,
many people you're affecting on the show, in the community, whatnot. So I appreciate you, Frank, very much. And I hope the listeners, reach out if you need help. know it's okay if you need to take time for you, but know you're not alone. And Frank, I'll be sure to add in the show notes where they can get help. So I appreciate you very much, Frank.
Yes. And don't feel like you have to be happy simply because it's the holidays. It's the
Yeah.
happiest time of the year. Maybe not. Maybe not.
Mhm. Well, thank you, Frank, and the listeners too. If someone could really utilize this episode, share it with them.
Yeah.
Share it with a friend that you could really find value from it. So I appreciate you, Frank, and sending hugs to everybody out there. So thank you again, Frank.
Thanks, Dawn.